guys, my name is Addie. I am a full-time working mama to 3 little girls, a 5, 3, and 1-year-old. And I homeschool my middle child right now, my 3-year-old. And so I guess I just wanted to walk you through today some of the resources that I've been using for the last 4 years for homeschooling preschool, and just share with you some of those and my tips and kind of how we do it in our home. So first, I guess I'll just explain kind of my process. So for me, I am the type of person who I like to do homeschool all year round. I like to do, 52 weeks of school. Not really, that's why I have quotes. But because that is one way that I really connect with my daughters. I am horrible at like imaginary play. So when we do play-based school and fun school and basically activities that are learning, but they don't even know they're learning because they're like more fun, playful games, that is a time I can bond and connect with them. It's an activity we can do, and they're learning, which is like the added bonus. So that is the type of preschool that I do. And basically, I have this system where I look at my calendar basically, and I look at any weeks that I might be going on vacation or any weeks that are a holiday week where I might not want to be homeschooling, and pick those weeks and, take them off the calendar, write off week on it so that I know I don't need to plan something for that week. Then I'm left with, say, 47, 48, 49 weeks, somewhere in there. And that is where I know I need to come up with some sort of something. So once I have that, I take a look at what it is that I want my kids to learn. So when they're 1, for example, we're not really homeschooling. We're more working on colors, shapes, and vocabulary. That's like the main things I want to work on with them. And for me, I have a busy book that they can do. That way, if we're homeschooling, while that child is awake, they still have something they can work on. That is an activity. So I have a busy book, which I can link below. It's like how I made it and DIY'd it. And then I also have what's in our preschool bins, which is the baby bin, and it's fine motor. It's stuff that she can work on independently while I work with the older one. So that's kind of what I have for her. At 2 is where I kind of start homeschooling. And that is where I know for me, I want to introduce the letters. I don't want them necessarily to memorize letters at 2. I just want to introduce them to letters, introduce them to numbers up to 20. I want to introduce them to patterning, red, blue, that sort of thing. So 2 is kind of basic, but that's what I want to do. Once we get to 3, I move on to more of the, let's learn what the letters are and the letter sounds. Let's learn the numbers 1 through 20. Let's work on the vowels and look at 10 frames as a whole. Like the thing, I basically just wrote a list. What do I want my 3-year-old to work on based on where she was at that moment? I'm talking about my oldest now, when my oldest was that age. And then 4, for me in my house, when my oldest daughter was 4, that's where we really solidified things. She was very eager to learn. She wanted to keep learning, learn more and more. So for her, it was like we were learning CBC words. We were learning syllables, rhyming, blending sounds. We were doing basic sight words. We were comparing and basic addition, subtraction, learning about money, time, those sorts of things. So I wrote down those things that I might be interested in and then plugged them into my calendar. So how did I then take that and make some sort of curriculum? Well, there are tons of resources out there, and I will share them with you. So basically for me, I took what I wanted to learn, I took the weeks, and then I made themes. I made themes for things that my children were interested in. So of course there were some easy ones to throw in. If there's holidays, if there's something, you can have an Easter unit or a Christmas unit or a 4th of July unit, things like that. You could plug those in. And then what are you left with? In the spring, what's cool about spring? Rain, weather, tulips, what's cool about fall, pumpkins, squirrels, leaves, what things are my kids interested in. In the summer, we do really fun things. So it's like my kids are super into princesses, mermaids, pretend play. Like if your kid is a boy, maybe he's into dinosaurs and robots and pirates, So you can pick the themes that really speak to your kids. And I don't have to worry. If you realized when I was talking about what my kids were learning at those ages, I didn't focus anything on history. I didn't focus anything on science. I didn't focus anything on that because the themes that I pick will rotate each week and they'll cover things. If we're doing a frog unit, We're learning a lot of science through that. If we're doing 4th of July, we're learning a lot of history through that. So I don't feel like I need to come up with any resources on my own for that because our theme unit will cover it. I hope that makes sense. So there are resources. One, I will just tell you, I have my themes from past years. They are on my website in the freebies section, themes. You can go see what my themes were, what our focus were, what our letter focus was, what our number focus was, you know, all those things. You can see my one from 3 years ago, you can see my one from 2 years ago, you can see my one from this year. They should all be there. So if you are interested in that, again, the link will be in my description. It's a freebie. I also, on my website under the preschool section, and I'll link it, have the lesson plans that I used for each of those themes. So if we did a colors unit, for example, my lesson plan is on there for that, for both ages of my kids at that time, which was last year, so 2 and 4 at that time. So what we did. So you are welcome to browse through there. Some I took from the resources that I'm about to tell you, and some of them I just make up because I do like making up kind of kids activity stuff. So it just depends, but you can see those on there. Outside of that, if you want a more kind of program thing, you don't want to do this theme thing that I'm talking about, you kind of want someone to give you a plan for however much time and just do what's in that book. A lot of those are paid, and I wanted to give you free resources today. So you can look at some of the paid ones, like Good and Beautiful. Like there are some out there. You can find those. One free program that I really like, and I still use some of in my lesson plan, especially in the Bible activities, because it is a Christian-based learning program. It is 36 weeks long. It's called ABC Jesus Loves Me, and they have curriculums for age 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and possibly even 6, but it may stop at 5. I can't remember off the top of my head. It is fantastic. I just loved doing it with my first, and like I said, I took pieces of it for what I use now. The reason I don't still do it, or I didn't continue and I came up with my method, is because once you have multiples, it was really hard to go in the different ages and not do the same Bible verse for the same week, and not one's working on one, say, animal, and one's doing another. And like, I just wanted more streamlined, all of my kids who are homeschooling to be able to do the same topic, maybe just a little harder and a little easier. So that's why I kind of moved away from that. The other thing I didn't like about it was that they taught ABCs and A, B, C, D, E, F, G in order. And I don't think that's the best way. So in my program that I came up with in my letter focuses, they're all jumbled based on just some research I did. So I teach them out of order. The other really good resource that I love, again, another free resource, is Mrs. Pleeman's. I think that's how you say her name. I'm gonna link these all below, but Mrs. Pleeman's Kindergarten is fantastic, another wonderful resource. And she has stuff for babies, like little baby sensory bins. She has stuff for toddlers, and then also preschoolers. Her resources, her ideas are free. You can pay for her packets or theme units. She gives you like a breakdown of what they're doing that week and the worksheets that go with it. So you do have to pay if you want that stuff, but it's good. It's a good place just to get some ideas. The next one is the Measured Mom. She has great freebie printables that I really like to use. You do have to be a subscriber, I believe. She has tons of like Montessori themed materials for a lot of the themes that I do. So that's a really great resource for me. Again, free, just have to be a part of that subscription, which is the same for my website. If you want to be in my freebies, you have to be signed up for my newsletter in order to get the password, and then you have access forever. And then the last one, oh no, there's two. One is Totschooling, totschooling.net. Again, great preschool worksheets. Lots of them are free, all different kinds of themes, just a really great resource. And then the last one is Mama Diaries, and her website I use specifically if we're working on a letter for the letter of the week type stuff. She has a letter of the week section, and I use most of her printables from there. I have a whole binder of stuff, of resources from there for letter work. So I do like hers as well. The last resource I love is called Montessori at Home, and it is $15, so it's not a free one, but it is pretty, you know, lower cost, and I will link it, but it has been an invaluable resource for me. Lots of Montessori ideas, lots of just, you know, getting hands-on with the kids. So if you are interested in that, I'll link it too, but I'm not affiliated with it or anything. It's just been a great resource for me, but it is $15. And just to note, like, if you do go to my website and pull down my themes and my focuses, your child might not line up to exactly what my child was. The kids are different. So for example, in my 4-year-old column right now, there were some pretty like advanced looking things because that daughter of mine, that was where she was. My middle child, my second one, is not a learner like my first was. So for her, when we started this year, she is 3 now, but I think we are still doing the 2-year program for her. And so she will, because she's a September birthday, so she's kind of on the younger end. So when we start school, our school starts and ends in August. So when we start in August, she's still gonna be 3, even though it's because she's really gonna be 4 that year. We're probably gonna do the 3-year curriculum for her because she's just not where my other daughter was. They're, you know, a little bit apart, and that's okay. So make sure when you look at that, you know that just because it says 4-year-old, that might not be what you wanna do. You might wanna do the 3-year-old. Just throwing that out there. It also kind of might throw you for a loop because on my 4-year-old one, for example, at the end of the year, we started doing division, multiplication, that sort of stuff. And I don't mean that we were doing, what's 5 times 5? That's not what I mean. A lot of those focuses are just introductions. So for example, when we talk about division, we were looking at a piece of pie. And I was saying, you know, this piece of pie has 6 pieces. If I just take 1 slice, how many pieces do I have left? That's division. That's an introduction into division, and that's the kind of stuff we were doing. And if you look at my lesson plans in conjunction with that themes resource with the focuses, you'll see that. So I just want to throw that out there too. And then the last little piece of kind of homeschooling a 3-year-old, homeschooling a 2, 3, 4-year-old, this preschool age, is just to remember that they are 2, 3, 4. They are not at the age where they need to be doing school for long periods. They are not at the age where they can really sit and be focused for much longer than, you know, a few minutes at a time. So like when we do it, we have different subjects and we rotate pretty quickly between each one for those themes because their attention span just isn't there yet. So your whole school day, everything you want to teach them, I would recommend not being longer than 20 minutes. That's the max. A lot of times for us, it's 10 to 15. There are some units, you know, where they're really engaged or something like that, or they do have a lot of focus that day where it does go to maybe 20. But I mean, and if you add the sensory bins and that sort of thing, then maybe that actually takes it longer. But just like get that in your head, like this is not a multiple hour thing. If you are a person who wants to homeschool, but you feel like you have so much going on and you just can't, you can. It does not have to be a long, involved thing. It can be a printable from this worksheet that you sit at the table for 5 minutes and just sit together and learn something. Like that's all it has to be. It just has to be a little lesson. It does not have to be this big, grand thing. So you can do it. We do homeschool when we can fit it in, okay? That's the beauty of homeschool. Right now, because I'm working full time, it has to be on my lunch break. It has to be. And when I'm on my lunch break, I have other things I have to do too. So it has to be that 10, 15, 20-minute thing so that I can get things done. And that is working for us. When I'm on maternity leave, we have way more time. We can do it in the morning. We can like stretch it out and really go slow. And that's fine too, you know, but that's just where we are in life. When my oldest daughter gets old enough to where she has homework coming home from school, we may move homeschool to that block, like after school block, so that we can all be doing school at the same time. It's your time and whatever works best for you. So you can fit it in, it's flexible, homeschooling is flexible. And probably the last thing I'll say before I hop off for today is that make sure when you're doing homeschool with your child, that it's also a time that works for them. So for example, you may have a child that is really cranky when they wake up in the morning. That is not the time you wanna homeschool them. You wanna wait for a time where they are feeling good, where they are being able to be interested, you know, right before lunch, if they're hungry, if they're tired, that might not be the best time for them. So you have to kind of fit it in to both of your schedules and be flexible and just kind of remember that you also don't have to do it every day. You know, if you want to do it 3 times a week, that's totally fine too. So I hope this video encourages you. That is the point of it. It's hopefully giving you some good resources that you can start with today to go ahead and get started. And if you have questions, I am always here. You can check me on Addie Dwyer on Instagram, and I take DMs all the time with people asking questions about this and which laminator I use and all that sort of stuff. And I do have videos on those topics that you can check too. But I'm happy to answer it. And I just want to be a motivation for you moms who are looking for that. So hope this was helpful, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.